So we're going to talk about acrylic paint. Before we get started, I just want to show you my setup that I have right here going on. Sorry for the wire. So I want to talk about how much paint. You are going to be needing one of the paint boxes. And the paint that you want to get is you want to get one of each color, okay? So you're going to get primary, secondary, brown, black, and white. But if you notice how big the amount is, it's very little because we are not doing a full project, okay? And I don't want you ever to get a lot of paint because you can go back a lot of times to get more paint, okay? So wax paper, you can also use the magazine paper back there, which is absolutely fine, okay? So that's that. Also, if you have any friends who happily had too much and you could borrow or ask, hey, can I use the rest of your paint? They might be willing to. All right, your papers, I would highly suggest that you separate them and write your name on both of them, okay? Over here. Now, you're going to notice that I don't have any kind of mess mat underneath. I am choosing to wash my table afterwards. If you do not have the time to wash your table, regardless if you have paint down or not, okay, then you don't need a mess mat. A mess mat can be found over by the aprons, okay? Now, you're gonna need paper towels, water. Now notice, they're in little puddles, okay? Each one of these has a purpose. We have wash, rinse, clean water. This one is what we use first. This is the one that we rinse everything off, and this will always be clean. Now, the last thing, I'm gonna actually set my my camera up. There we are. Okay, are the tools that you're gonna need. Now, you're gonna see a lot of tools that we're gonna need for this because we're gonna be exploring lots of different tools. Okay, so what I would highly suggest is that you get a filbert. Okay, it's a curved one. All right. Round. Now, I would suggest you get two different kinds of rounds, one skinny, one kind of medium, all right. A palette knife, all right. There's all different styles over there, and honestly, anyone works, okay. A toothbrush, okay. Hopefully it's been cleaned. And two flats, okay. One that's a little bit larger and one that's smaller. Okay, now I'm going to take these and put these to the side. Washing your brush. I'm going to go over that real quick before we start. Now, when we wash our brush, okay, what you want to do is you're going to take your paintbrush and you're going to see the ridges. This is your wash, okay? So when you wash, you're going to, and I'm going to put a little paint on my brush, okay? So you're going to wash in this container. Now, you hear how I'm doing that? Okay. What I'm doing is I'm getting the excess water off. Okay. Then I'm going to go into my rinse. Rinse is right here. Tap it off. Okay. Now something you'll notice. There's no color to it. Okay. You will find that this little container, this puddle of water, will be your darkest. Okay. This one will be light. All right. And when you wash it off, it will be completely clear. Okay, this one you don't want to have any kind of paint in because you will need water at different points of this project, okay, and different points of this practice. All right, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to go through a couple of different brushes, all right? Having control of your brush is really important. We are no longer just slapping paint on papers and painting wide huge areas. It is now time to focus on getting small details and having control of your brush, okay? So I'm going to move this over a little bit more. There we are. So our first one is a round brush. It's kind of like a detail. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually getting my paintbrush a little bit wet. Now, as you can kind of see from my amounts of paint, my orange kind of got out of hand. I got a little bit too much. So I'm going to take my orange because I have the most there to do some of these details, okay? So I'm going to take this, okay? And I'm going to recreate these little marks. All right. Now, there we go. All right. You want to try to get as close as you can to recreating it. All right. Now, if you pick the wrong brush, it could look really sloppy, okay? If you're doing small details, which will be one of the things that I will be looking for in your projects, okay? You might want a small detail brush, okay? Now, I see that this one right here could use the same one. So I'm going to do these little squiggles. Okay. Here. Now, could this one do this one? Sure. But I feel like this might be better with a little bit larger brush. Okay. So I'm going to wash it off in the wash, and then rinse it off in the rinse, and it's clear. All right, so I'm going to grab my next brush. I'm going to get a little wet. Okay. And let's add some of these other ones. Now this is a thick and a curved tip. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time to get it just right. There you go. Okay. This one, a little bit. Now, instead of adding more paint, I'm just going to get a little wet. Okay. Ooh, I do need a little bit more paint. So, thick. Now, you notice how this brush is kind of coming apart here, okay? When you're done with your brushes, you want to reshape them, because what happens is they lose their shape. So after you're done, when you're drying them, when you're finished, what I would suggest that you do is just reshape them, okay? Wash them, just reshape them like this, all right? It keeps the brushes a lot longer. All right. That's why if you ever see me like this, it's not that I like the feel of it, which they're cool. I'm just reshaping them. All right. Okay. So let's kind of do some of these over here. So this one's kind of a little strokes, which is cool. Okay. Onto the filbert. Remember, reshape. It'll definitely help you later. Okay? All right, so the filbert. Filbert is it's an awesome brush. It's an awesome brush name. It's a rounded tip, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to make like little petals. Little line. Alright. Now, a filbert is great for getting up into like little edges and wiggling them down. Add some little curves there. Okay? Alright, let's wash. Alright. Onto our flats. Oh, totally forgot. You gotta get a fan. Okay, so let's get our flat, all right? And flats are pretty nice because they could go right up to the edge, make nice straight lines. Okay. They can also kind of be rough, all right? Now this is actually called the dry brush, which we'll go over a little bit later, okay? But you can wiggle them as well. All right. All right. All right, so I'm going to take a moment. It'll be a second. I got to go get a fan brush. Okay, sorry about that. Had to grab a fan brush real quick. Okay, so a fan brush is exactly what it sounds like. It looks like a fan, okay? When you're working with these, try not to grind them in any way, okay? Or really press them too down because they kind of break a little bit easier, okay? And definitely these are probably a little bit more fun to reshape too. All right, so I'm going to wash my last brush. There we go. And this one's actually pretty neat. So I'm going to get a little bit of that clear water. A little bit of, thing. This is great for quick little brushes. That's pretty easy, right? Yeah. Now, you can also make trees. You're like, no way. Yep. Probably not the prettiest of trees, but being an orange tree. But you can kind of get the idea of how trees can be made too. Okay? All right, beautiful. So for our next few ones, we're going to be exploring a few more brushes, but mostly it's going to be about texture because your painting should not be all flat, okay? Once you get to this point, detail and texture is kind of what you need to add to be a little bit more exciting, okay? So we're going to start off with, let's start off with a flat, and we're going to do a dry brush. So a dry brush is the fact that we take a paintbrush and we pretty much dry it off, okay? So you don't want like much water on it. Tap the paint so it's just very much on the edge. And you're just petting the surface, okay? Very lightly, all right? Gives it a nice streaky look, okay? So that's dry brush. Very cool to paint under this and then add it on top. Give it like a two kind of tone color. Also, if you wanted to, you could always add other colors on top of this as well. Give it like a different effect. Very cool. Okay? Streaky. So streaky is a little different. You can make it a little bit thicker. Okay? So it's going to add some red. Long lines. Definitely gives it a different look. Okay? Swoosh! So swoosh! Exactly that. Little curves. Great for waves or possibly clouds or anything that could use a swoosh. Now, next one. All right, remember that toothbrush? And you're like, what am I doing with a toothbrush? Oh my gosh, I need to move this up. Sorry. All right, so the toothbrush. I have no problem with creating like a speckled sprayed look. I have a problem when it's all over, okay? And that's the only texture you've used, all right? So what you need to do is you want to start off with a dry toothbrush, okay? And you very, very lightly tap it onto your paint, okay? Now, just so you know, you are going to get dirty with this, okay? If there's an area you don't want to get sprayed on, cover it. Okay. Light mist. I'm going to get some thicker. Okay. I want to show what happens if I add some water. Okay, so. Magical, right? But watch. Let's cover this. Very cool, right? Yes. Okay, so a difference between wet and dry. But remember, that's what happens to you. Okay? All right. Palette knife. All right, so palette knife. Now this is pretty cool, okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to take your palette knife and you're just going to dip it in, okay? All I did was went straight down. And you can have different effects too with the palette knife. Okay, can have it be, you know, jagged, all different things, okay? Palette knife. Very rough. Okay, so this is our, you know, the different textures that you can create. Now, are there other ones out there? Sure, there are. But these are the ones that we're going to kind of explore right now. Now, when you wash off your palette knife, okay, pretty easy. Get some water on it. Just wipe it off on your paper towel, and look, beautiful. Okay, so let's go to the next page. Okay, so on this side, we're going to be looking at a couple of things. Mixing colors, okay, and actually creating gradation or more of a blending, okay, from one color to the next. And we're going to be putting them together, okay? So what I'm going to ask that you do, all right, probably using a nice small brush, all right? I personally like using a flat brush because I feel like getting into some of the corners is pretty easy. You can also use a little brush, up to you, okay? One would I not be grabbing? Thick, huge brush, okay? This is not gonna help me keep in the lines, all right? So I'm gonna add a little water, okay? Now, what I'm gonna suggest that you do, okay, is take your paintbrush, all right, and you're just gonna use this as a palette, okay? If you want, you can go get a magazine paper, so you can have it as a mixing one, okay? So let me grab that. Okay, so here we go. We're gonna put that in there, all right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mix on this paper and here. Now you notice that I'm not using a large space, okay, when I do mixing, because I'm not gonna be painting a lot in here. Now, this one is pretty easy. Red. Notice how I have control of my brush, okay? I'm not slapping this down. I'm staying within my lines, because that's how I'm gonna show good craftsmanship. Okay, I have red orange. So I'm going to wash my brush off because I'm, going to the next color. Add to this. And we're just going to spend like a minute or two just going through and painting this color wheel. Now, don't forget, we've got primaries and secondaries, and we have the tertiaries. Primaries are our main colors, red, blue, yellow. We have our secondaries, orange, violet, and green. And then we have our tertiaries, okay, which is a primary and a secondary mixed together, okay? There we are. By the way, something you may have just noticed is this was starting to dry up. Instead of me adding more paint, I just took a little water and I just hydrated it, okay? All right. So let's just take a moment and just paint through this. And by the way, if you ever find that I'm going a little too fast, not a problem to just pause the video. Anyone notice that your paint tray, the wash is probably getting pretty gross, but the rinse is probably very clear. Should I need to grab a little of that water? Beautiful. I just extended that with a little hint of water. I know it's so soothing, right? Like you could just do this forever. Alright, I'm going to add a little bit more water to right here to kind of extend that a little bit more. It's just getting a little dry, okay? And mix my two colors together. Ooh, a little bit more yellow. A little bit more yellow. There we go. That's the ticket. Now, cool thing about acrylic paint is if for some reason you don't get it right, okay? So let's say you're painting and you're like, oh God, it's ugly. It's like, I can't do this. You can let this dry. And then the next day you come back and guess what? It's like, you could just paint over it. Not an issue. Alright. Notice how much paint I really am using. It's like not that much. So much fun. All right, so let's get some green here. Mix it in. Ooh, I feel like that's too green, people. Here we are. Now, one thing I did not tell you, and I feel horrible I didn't tell you, okay, is that acrylic paint, all right? Difference between acrylic paint and tempera paint is, one, it's a little bit more shinier, so that's true. Two, unfortunately, it's a little harder to get out of clothes, okay? So you probably should be wearing an apron. I know, I should have told you in the beginning. The aprons are pretty easy to put on. You don't have to, like, tie them or anything. You just put it over your head and go. Okay. So just rehydrated that just a little bit because they're starting to dry out. Just okay. All right. So we need to get some blue violet and then red violet. So you're probably noticing about these colors for the tertiaries. You're probably like, is this a coincidence that the primary and the secondary colors they start with it? Well, kind of. So primary colors, you want to be first, okay? So we have primaries first. So when we talk about tertiary colors, we have the primary color first. So example, blue is the primary color and violet is the secondary. So when we call it by its name, we call it the blue violet. So it would be red orange and yellow green. It just makes life a little bit easier when we all kind of have a common language. Oh, what do I got going on? I'm gonna totally do that. Oh my gosh, we made it, people, all the way around the rainbow. Now, something fun to know, okay, is if you take equal amounts of the color wheel, okay, the primary colors, you'll make brown. All right. Actually, I would like to, if you guys could, all right, I don't always work with colored pencils, which is always, kind of a bummer. So if I take a little red, I take a little blue, right, and then I need to go and I need to wash my brush. All right, and then I grab a little yellow. Should make brown. Now, you notice how I made kind of like a purple? Okay. This is how you solve that. If you get purple, add a little bit of the opposite color, okay? So I look like I need to add a little bit more yellow. So let's see. Sometimes you add too much. Oh, added too much. Yellow. There we go. That's a brown. Look at that, watch. Brown! Isn't that cool? Or another fun trick, instead of the primary colors, just add equal amounts of opposite colors. Those are the complementary colors. And you're going to get brown. Very cool. Actually, that leads us to skin tones, which is kind of nice. So if you got a nice little brown like this, I would go ahead and paint it right next to the skin tones, because we're actually going to be making a couple skin tones, okay? Now, a lot of times I'm asked, how do I make skin color? Okay, now the cool thing about skin color is that it's basically 3 colors, okay? So I'm going to start off with a little brown, okay? If you like brown, of course, right? Now, I'm going to actually use my thing over here. All right, so I'm going to have a little brown. I'm going to take a hint of white. All right. Now, it doesn't look like much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually add a little bit of yellow. And you can kind of get a little bit of a dark tan, okay? All right. Now, as you can kind of see, we have different kinds of skin tones. All right, we have light, we have dark, but basically they're all different shades of brown, okay? Another one is white, orange, get a peach, but instead of just leaving it like this, like orange, okay, I'm gonna add a little hint of brown. Actually, I want to add more white to that. Teeny hint of brown. There we go. Okay. Now, we're going to get even lighter. You're like, what? I know. Add a lot more white. This one's for my pale people. Ones who need lots of sunscreen so you don't burn. Okay? And you should be able to see how you get a whole range of skin tones. Okay. Now, skin tones are just not the only thing that you can mix, all right? Tertiaries, we got that. Secondaries, we got that. But there are other combinations. So what I want you to do is I want you to have a little fun here. I want you to mix some colors, okay? Try not to mix all browns, but, you know, see where things go. Like, for example, it'd be interesting to see what does blue look like if I mix it with this brown, okay? Now, that is a really cool color, all right? Very neat. Like, what does it look like when I add black to this color combination right here, and then I add some red? That's beautiful. All right. So take a few minutes, and I want you to mix a few colors, just to see what you get. Because honestly, I want you to break out of that little like mold that we have, that happy little space in life where we're like, we just like these colors, whatever the ones that are in the you know, the bottle. Like, look at that. Isn't that beautiful? What happens if I add a little brown to that? Magic. Different kind of green. Okay. Because so for your project, you are going to be mixing some colors, and I would like you to use a variety of colors. Let's see if I can do a nice orange of some sort. I don't know. You notice I'm starting to like really not care about getting my brush, washing it, because I'm kind of like at the end. Let's mix a little green with orange. What do we get? Pumpkin! Yes! That rocks. Alright, so I'll let you continue that. So if you need to like pause the video for just a second, that's absolutely fine while you finish mixing some really cool colors. Okay, so we're gonna get going on the last part, okay? We are going to be looking at a couple of things. So a couple of real quick tips, okay? Don't forget that we have tint is when we add white, okay? And if you're making a light color, the suggestion here is start with white, then add your color slowly, okay? Because your color can overtake white really fast. But if you have color and you keep adding white, it's going to take you forever to lighten that. Tone. It's when we add gray to a color, okay? It kind of mutes it. Shade. That means add black. Now, with this one, a little different. Black has the power to overtake a color very fast and with very little amount of it. So start with the color, then add small, okay? I'm gonna I don't know, try to paint that in, okay? Small amount of black, okay? And then you can gradually grow your darker color, okay? Now, we're gonna be doing blending from one color to the next, and in our little practice, we're gonna do some overpainting, okay? Now, the goal of this is to... All right, so what you're gonna need to do is we're gonna be blending from one color to the next in this next section. So in your little Messier palette that you've got going on, you're gonna have to have two colors that you know are gonna blend well with each other. So for example, orange and green are probably not gonna be the colors you wanna choose, but more like neighbors on the color wheel. So for example, blue and purple are a good choice. Blue and green. If you want, you can always do black and a color, white and a color. It doesn't matter to me. But we're gonna be doing one to the next. Okay, so let's start getting some exciting blending going on. All right, so the first one we're gonna do is smooth. So smooth effect kind of goes kind of quickly, and you want your paint to be somewhat wet. So my brush has like some water on it, all right? And when I'm going to use my paint, it is going to be a little wet. Now, right now, your paper is, it's dry, all right? Not gonna lie. It's probably gonna soak up the paint very fast, okay? Now, what I'm doing is, how did I do that so fast? You're like, gosh! I basically did this like gradation, okay? I put heavy amounts of paint, and then I got lighter and lighter, and I patted it, okay? So I'm going to show you again. Had my blue, okay? Grab my green, and I kind of go lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter all the way through. Like, fabulous, right? I know. So what you're going to do with each one is you're going to do this into each leaf, okay? So, for example, I'm going to very carefully, because, you know, this is a little different. We have now all these creases and all these grooves, and you want to stay within these lines, okay? There we are. We're going to have that. I'm going to have mine go to the below. All right. If I need to, I can wet my paintbrush a little bit. Oops, went outside the line. Now I'm adding a lot more water because I want it to become more transparent. You can do that too. Okay, notice how the green turns into blue. Now I'm gonna let this dry, and when this dries, I'm going to actually use my thin, like detailing brush, the round. I'm gonna put those lines on. Streaking, love streaking. Not people running around, you know, with cheeks everywhere, okay? So, streaking's a little bit different. Streaking is kind of like a quick process as well. It is thick lines, okay? And they kind of blend in with each other, all right? Now, I find with streaking, I tend to go over it a couple of times to really get the paint to kind of go into each other, okay? All right. You're like, once, all right, let's try this again. One more. Add my blue. Notice I got a little thicker this time, okay? All right, what do? I need my green. Kind of like streaks right into it. Lovely! Now, yes, it is a little bit harder in this section because it's so small together, but I think you can work with this. So how I'm going to do this is I'm going to work on the outside first and then just kind of fill it in. Okay. I'm going to go and I'm going to get my green, streak it through so it starts to blend. Now you'll notice that this is kind of it looks like some texture. Well, yeah, it helps when things look like they've got texture to it. They look better when they have texture in it. Oh, that's fancy, right? Yeah. And if honestly it's not working for you, you're like, oh, it's not working, add more layers onto it. Like, believe it or not, you can't really see, I'm sure. Actually, can you see? No, you can't see! Oh my gosh, I keep doing that. Sorry. It's like a habit. I get into like going through the whole thing. So when I'm doing this, okay, is I'm just keep adding like layers and layers and layers of thick paint on top until it just keeps adding all the way through, okay? All right, hopefully you did see that. I won't know until I actually look at it. But dabbing is probably one of the easiest ways, okay? Dabbing, one thing about dabbing is that you gotta be very careful that you don't damage the brush, okay? Let's just do something different. I'm gonna do a little bit of orange, okay? And I'll do orange and yellow. So dabbing is, what I'm doing is I'm pressing down like this, but I'm bringing it down. Have it there. Now, I'm gonna add yellow. Start from the bottom up. Okay. Kind of like just mixes in. Like sometimes I go back down. All right, gives it a nice fuzzy look. Okay, let's do the other side. Okay, let's get some of that yellow. I'll mix one into the other. Okay, so let's add this to our leaf. Okay, and we're gonna go back in and we're gonna add the details in. All right, so let me get my orange in. Smaller areas are kind of hard. All right, gotta get some yellow. Yellow, yellow, yellow. All right. So I'm gonna paint it down here. Get at least my, detail the edges. And then I'm gonna start dabbing. And it will pick up the paint. And it will blend it down, okay? If you need to go up into it, absolutely fine. Mixes it nice through, okay? Now, last thing we want to do. We want to add those details in, okay? We want to go in and we want to make this look a little bit more realistic. So the last thing we're going to do is you're going to get out that thin brush, that itty-bitty thin brush, okay? Although black is a great idea, it's not a perfect idea, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to mix black and green, okay? So it's not so harsh. Okay, and then I'm going to go in very thin and just add in some details, okay? So I want you to do that with all of them. So a lot of times what will happen is people will be like, can I just outline with some markers? Yeah, sometimes that works, but sometimes we just need to, have some patience and add it with some paint. Just a little paint. I think that might be, oh yes, that is good. Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? How thin that is? Oh my gosh, are you in love with this? I'm in love with this. Look at that. Can't get that with a marker. Oh no. I'm gonna do white on that one. Oh yeah. Let's see if that gets exciting. We gotta get some water. So extend it. Alright. I know this, this media probably took a little bit longer than you expected, and it's okay, because if you take your time, you have control of your brush, it's gonna come out beautiful. Okay? Alright. Look at how good that is. I can't wait to see yours. All right, so I want to look at a couple of things over here, okay? If you have a lot of paint and you know that someone else is going to be doing this unit, you might want to suggest that they use your paint. If not, you're just going to take this and throw this away, okay? So someone else can use this container. Your brushes. Now, let's check out this water. Now, I got, I wasn't paying attention, and I hit the wrong container. So this should be your darkest water, okay? This should be a little bit lighter, and this should be clear. I would suggest that you take your brushes, just rinse them through, reshape them, okay? And then place them back into the correct containers in the back with the brush side up, okay? Don't forget, for your toothbrush, all right, easiest way to do this is you can actually run it under the water, or just, do a little scrubbing. I'm sure you all know how to scrub, okay, like you're brushing your teeth, okay? Get all that paint out, okay? Don't leave it for anyone else. Make sure there's no paint on here, okay? Although this one has some paint on it, but I think it's dry, okay? That's pretty much it. Remember to put your name on your papers, okay, when they go on the drying rack. If for some reason they're not there at any point in time, check the bin on the top of the drying rack, because sometimes I have the habit of clearing off the drying rack to make room, and I just put them up top, okay? All right, well, that is the painting unit. Make sure that you wash your table, even if you didn't get any paint on it.